Hey guys, part 2, tutorial number 2, and we're going to jump right into it. Exposure theory. This is one of the most important things. I just want to double check and make sure that the composition is good of this video tutorial that I'm making now. So give me a second, let me just make sure it looks good. Not showing up here. Hey guys. Forgot my coat. Whoops. Alright. Always look sharp. That's very important. Gentlemen, wear suits. Looks better than just wearing a button up. Makes you look more professional. Ladies, you know what to wear already. Professional, black, all black, business / formal attire. But anyways, I'm not going to teach you guys how to dress. I trust that you know how to do that. We're going to talk about exposure theory, all right? Exposure theory is the most important thing when it comes to professional photography and professional videography. Understanding ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. I know I've been drilling this. I know there's so many tutorials that I already sent you guys, but believe it or not, so many people still screw up even after they've been presented all the course content. So today we're going to go over exposure using an actual camera, and I want to show you guys how to set it up with 2 cameras. First, we're going to start off with the Nikon series. Where we obviously shoot with the D5200, but I also and I'm recording with this, but I'll show you guys after I'm done how to do exposure on the Lumix G7 4K camera. Okay, so the first thing, obviously, you take out your camera. There's going to be a lens hood covering the shutter. Open it up, pop up your lens. All right, match the white and the white lines, the white with the white right there, if you can kind of see it. It's going to lock and make a clicking noise. Take this off. Don't start taking pictures with this on. You're just going to look stupid. It has happened many times before. All right, turn it on. Wait, do we have an SD card in here? We don't have an SD card in here. SD card, if you're shooting video, you're going to be using a 64 gigabyte if you're shooting 1080p, or a 128 if you're shooting in 4K. Pop in the SD card on the side for the Nikon. On the Lumix G7 4K camera, it's on the bottom. Okay? We have to put in the battery as well. Great, I don't have a battery here. I'll be right back. That's the battery. I just want to double check if it's recording. Nice, it is recording. So, obviously, turn on your camera. Switch to LCD. Oh, not that way. Switch to LCD. Boom. This guy right here, this is gonna tell you how to get the right exposure all the time, okay? So, a few things. Hope you guys can see it. Hope everything is in focus on my camera here. We have shutter speed here, 1/80. Aperture, which is the F. There's always an F next to the aperture. And we have our ISO on the bottom here, okay? Now, when it comes to photography, all right, remember the rules. Remember the rules. Your ISO, which is this guy here on the bottom, must always remain under 2000. Maximum, you can go to 2500, but it should remain under 2000. So if I see your ISO is at 3200, and how do you change your ISO? On the Nikon, you see this button right here, the FN button, right here, guys. You hold the FN button, and then you crank this guy to the right and the left, and you see how it's changing, like that. You want to keep it 2000, maximum 2500, but 2000 and under. So anything between 100, which is the lowest ISO, and 2000 is fair game. You can basically place it there. Okay, 2000. 2500 max if you really need to crank up the brightness. But I don't want to see you guys at 3200, 4000, 5000, all that shit. You know what happens? The footage, the pictures are grainy, and that's unusable, like, pictures, you know what I mean? And it's really hard to edit, and it's gonna look bad, and I'm gonna be pissed. All right, so do not cross 2000 or 2500 for ISO. Got it? Cool, that's ISO. And I'll explain, these are the rules, but I'll explain what each one does afterwards, even though you kind of know. But I'll explain it in depth more. So this is f-stop right here is called aperture, all right? The aperture is how wide or narrow the iris of the camera is moving or is at that current spot. All right, so how do you change the aperture? Right now it's on manual mode. See this little white, the little white thing right there? That's kind of signifying, telling you that, all right, it's which setting is the camera at. We always shoot on manual. But in order to change the aperture, we have to switch to A. We have to switch to A on the Nikon. And this button now changes the aperture. Okay, you see that? How it's moving? How it's changing from 1.8, and it goes all the way up to 22, okay? Oh, probably not on this camera though. Yeah, 16 max is on this lens, I'm sorry, lens. So, what are the rules of aperture? The aperture setting, which is what I just showed you, should be between 1.8 and maximum 2.5, okay? In some situations you can do 3.2. What does that mean and why is that the case? So, the reason why we want the aperture to be so low, even though we can go all the way to 16, is because the lower the aperture setting, the more shallow the depth of field, or the more blur in the background. You know, that nice photographic professional look is achieved by blur in the background, which is only achieved by having a low aperture setting, okay? So do not have your aperture set to like 5 or 10 or whatever, because then everything's going to be in focus, and if everything's in focus, then it looks like a damn phone picture, you know, like an iPhone can take a picture like that anyway, right? So always have your aperture setting low. You got it? 1.8 for like decorations, because 1.8 is very, very, very shallow, meaning like the least amount of things are in focus, meaning most things are going to be in blur. So 1.8 is specifically for like ring shots, decoration shots, or if you're trying to take something more artistic, you know, like if the bride is putting on her earrings, for example, if you just want the earring to show up but not the whole ear, 1.8, and not all lenses can go that low, right? I might make a tutorial on lenses after this, but 1.8 is for the everything, most everything is blurry and only a few things are in focus. Got it? Sometimes 1.8 can be a problem, and I'll tell you when it's going to be a problem: when there's groups. When you have groups, like if it's one person, then 1.8 might work. But if it's 2 people, 3 people, if it's a huge group of people, then you need to go to 2.5 or 3.2, approximately. You got it? 2.2 might work, but the safe zone is 2.5 to 3.2. Okay? For aperture, which has the F next to it, and it's the same on the Lumix G7 4K camera as it is on the Nikon. There should be an F next to it all the time. So, large groups, medium-sized groups, or groups in general, 3.5, 2.2, 2.5 to 3.2, sorry, 2.5 to 3.2, okay? Or stay in that range somewhere. Real nice decoration shots and flower petals and like you know, just you want to get something really cinematic, then you can go to 1.8. It's gonna make a nice, really nice blurry background, okay? And you can do it, I've done it in some cases with a couple, meaning there's 2 people, but you have to be careful that nothing is out of focus, okay? That's aperture. How do you change that again on the Nikon? You turn it on, the F thing right here, you go to A, and then you switch, you go from M, manual mode, to A, which is aperture priority, and you move this around. Whatever your target is, so in our case we're going to keep it at 2, say, switch it back to M. This is what I forgot to mention. You go to A, you change your f-stop, and you switch back to M to lock in the aperture setting on your Nikon. Got it? Very, very important. And I'm going to double check that it's recording, which it is, 9 minutes. Awesome. Awesome. So that's aperture. And finally, shutter speed. Shutter speed. Shutter speed is how quickly, see this guy right here? See this mirror? Behind the mirror is an image sensor. See the image sensor in the back? That's where the light burns into, okay? So how quickly or how slowly the the shutter moves for the image to get burned into the sensor is called shutter speed. All right. Now, the rule for shutter speed and how do you change the shutter speed? See this guy right here? If you move it, it changes. Okay, it changes. See this fraction? We're seeing a fraction, 1 over 100, 1 over 400. What the hell? Why is it a fraction? It's a fraction of a second. That's why. Because it's speed. It's time, basically, right? So that's this guy. This on manual mode, on M, if you crank this, if you move this around, immediately your shutter speed is moving. You're changing your shutter speed. I'm sorry. Changing your shutter speed. How do you change ISO? Hold the FN button on the side. ISO is on the bottom, and then when you move this, you have to hold the button though. It's going to change your ISO. And how do you change your aperture? Remember, we switched to A, target, set the aperture that you want, switch back to M when it's locked in. Okay, boom, we switch it back to M. How do you change your shutter speed? Which is this guy right here. You move this guy. Okay, what is the rule for shutter speed? Your shutter speed should remain above, you can say 1 over 80. 1 over 80. It should remain above that. Meaning it should be 1 over 100, 1 over 200, 1 over 150, etc. Okay? The longer, I mean, the higher number, meaning the higher number on the denominator, 1 over 400 basically is like 1 over 400ths of a second, or if you go like 1 over 800, that's 1/800ths of a second. So it's quicker, faster. And so when you quickly move your shutter, then what's happening is less light is going through, so, and also the motion is less. The motion that is being captured is less. Okay, and you guys, I know you guys remember this from your photography lessons. So the faster your shutter, the more you freeze the image. And what happens is, if you go below 1 over 80, if you go below 1 over 60, for example, but 1 over 80, all right? Or sometimes when people are dancing, you have to even go faster. The rule of thumb, if people are dancing, is approximately 1 over 60, I think. I've seen blur even on 1 over 60, so 1 over 8, like 1 over 180 or 1 over 200 to really be safe, to get that nice, freeze that image and capture them dancing in the moment. Because if you go like, if you're doing like 1 over 60, 1 over 50, when people are dancing, you're gonna get blur. And the images are gonna look horrible. And that's not professional to have blur. And I'm gonna be really pissed. So make sure that your shutter speed is quicker than 1 over 80, okay? So 1 over 80 and above for the lower number, okay? 1 over 80 and above, fast, okay? Dancing, remember, 1 over 80 is when people are like posed. They're not moving. But when people are dancing, right? When the dancing starts and stuff, or if someone's like giving a speech and they're kind of active like I am now when I'm doing the videos because I'm excited and pumped, you have to change it to like 1 over 180 or 1 over 200 approximately. Okay, remember that. So one more time, we're going to recap the rules. Rules for ISO: don't go above 2000 for ISO. So between 100 and 2000 is okay. Rule of thumb for aperture, and remember, if you have to go back and watch the video on how to change these settings on the camera, just go back, rewind, and watch it again. But aperture between 1.8 and 3.2. You got it? 3.2 approximately. 3.2 for groups, large groups. And 1.8 for like decor or some cinematic stuff if you want to do it. And shutter speed should be faster than 1 over 200 if people are dancing, and 1 over 80 in general, okay? Now, you guys have to understand that each one of these things are going to be affecting light, right? And you know that, okay? Aperture affects light, shutter affects light, ISO affects light, okay? So I'm gonna make another, let me see if on my list, do I have something talking about lighting situations? Lighting for video, understanding exposure and how it affects the photos. Okay, so I'm going to talk about different lighting situations in the next tutorial because I don't want this video to be too long. Yeah, so I'm going to just talk about ISO, aperture, and shutter speed in this tutorial. In the next one, I'm going to talk about lighting situations, okay? And what to do in different various situations. You got it? And I'm going to switch cameras quickly, and I want to show you guys how to change the aperture, shutter, and ISO on the Lumix G7, okay? Hey guys, so we switched cameras, and this camera I'm using autofocus on this lens, so it's gonna keep making a noise. You see that, because never shoot video with autofocus. But the only reason why I'm doing it is because I don't have someone controlling the manual focus. If I'm moving back and forth, who's gonna change it for me? So I need to trust the lens, and it might be a little bit annoying, but just bear with me. I'm quickly gonna show you guys. I was recording with this. Is this still recording? It's not still. It's not recording. I was recording with the Lumix G7, and I want to quickly show you guys. Is it still focusing too much? Let me see. Yeah, keeps doing that. I'm sorry, guys. Let me. I'm probably just gonna turn off the autofocus. I mean, it's fine. Whatever. Real quick, okay? So you want to turn on your camera. First thing, turn on your camera here, and you want to switch the display from here to here, okay? Alright guys, I finally got the camera to stop. I turned off the autofocus on the camera. Okay, so anyway, I'll be really quick. So guys, see this display button on the G7? You want to click display. Keep clicking it until you see this window. Here we see the F for the aperture setting. We see the shutter here. We see the ISO here. This is actually a touchscreen, so we can actually change the aperture like this. I'm clicking set. Shutter like this. And ISO like this. Or, which I would prefer, is we have little knobs here, okay? So this knob right here in the front is changing your aperture. You see how it's changing, guys? That's to change your aperture. This one right here is to change your shutter speed. You see the shutter speed moving? Here, okay? And how do you change your ISO? ISO, you have to see this button right here, ISO. You hold the ISO, and then you would adjust it. It's the only thing that doesn't have a button. So yeah, that's how you do it, okay? And then you click set. If you want, whenever you're ready, click set. One more time. Aperture is this one. I know this camera is much more amazing, isn't it? Shutter for this. And ISO, you've got to click this ISO and then actually move it. Or you can move this one here, but you can just use the touchscreen to adjust it if you want. Alright? And that's how you adjust the exposure settings on the Lumix G7, which is specifically meant for videography. So I don't want to see you taking pictures with that because it's 16 megapixels only, which is like, there's phones better than that. But the D5200 is, I'm sorry I'm so close to it, but it's in focus. So the D5200 is 24 megapixels. So obviously this is meant for video. It's a 4K camera, obviously. And later on we're gonna go over how to, set up the G7 for filming and the camera settings. But I just want to show you guys how to change the ISO aperture and shutter speed on both cameras. Okay? And we're gonna switch back to this guy. Actually, that's it. I think that's it for the exposure, the camera setting. So we'll leave it there. You can move on to the next video. See you guys there.